All right, man, so we are here at the infamous Charlie Dwellington's where all the magic began for local comedy, and a huge promoter and supporter of local comedy. Shout out to Liz, yeah?
Yes.
So I'm sitting here with Aunt John.
Well, it's Aunt Megan now, but...
Aunt Megan. Hey, that's good to know. So you've undergone some recent changes, transformations, if you will. Why don't you tell us a little about that?
So, I've been doing stand-up for about 3 years now, and for the first 2 years, I was a boy in a dress, and about 7 months ago, I started transitioning. And so what that means is I've started hormones, and it's amazing. My comedy has gotten so much funnier because I'm so much funnier now. I don't have a cloud over my head or anger in my, or anxiety or depression or things like that. So I'm able to be much quicker and funnier. I've also, I haven't had anything to drink in like 10 months.
Wow.
So I'm getting very close to a year of sobriety. It's medically required, and then I've also just had surgery, so there's physically less of me. So
Physically less of you.
when you see me on stage, I will be the skinny white girl.
Really? You're not going to be the, what is that?
The pleasantly plump girl anymore. No. I had a good friend of mine who's a bartender at another bar who described me. He goes, "Oh, Megan, tall, pretty, really sweet, likes to get on stage and talk about her dick." So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
So you told us a little bit about, you mentioned the fact that there's a little less of you, and medically, tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, so the VA changed a medication that I take, and their instructions were, "Megan, don't drink on this." And I'm like, I'm a grown-ass woman, I'll do what I want. And then I spent 8 hours in the bathroom.
So they were right, and you should have followed their advice.
Yes, and my comment to that was, well, I guess I'm not drinking because I don't want to lose a vertebrae.
That bad, huh?
Sitting on a toilet for 8 hours is enough to convince you to stop doing a lot of things.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch. So you talk about a little bit, you mentioned a little bit earlier about the cloud over your head when you started doing comedy, when you were just like the guy in the dress, right?
So I've been very slowly transitioning for about 5 years.
Okay.
It's kind of tough because I was carrying 2 people around in my head.
Okay.
I was very guarded about my girl life because outwardly I looked like a boy. And it's very hard on your psyche. It does very strange things inside your head. I was always very funny, and when this all was kind of started, I knew I was much happier being a girl. I just couldn't figure out at the time how to do it all the time because I had a family and things like that. And I'm now newly single. My divorce was finalized just recently, and we're on very good terms. She didn't want to be married to a girl, either did I. And so we're just fine. But all of that weight off of me, my whole head cleared, the meds that I'm on for transitioning do really strange things to me. because they rewrite the synapses in my head. So I actually think like a girl now. And so, yeah, and so lots of the jokes that I tell are now much funnier because I'm thinking of them much more from a girl's perspective.
Nice.
Right.
What was the impetus or the turning point that got you to say, all right, you know what, I'm going to do me, and I'm going to do it the way I want to do it?
There was an incident with my family, and my spouse left, and so I was kind of by myself, and I was like, I guess there's nobody here. I guess I get to be a girl all the time. And about a year after that, I was talking to someone at the VA hospital here, and they were like, they'll help you transition if you would like. And I was like, I do now, and I'm all about that.
In the VA hospital, because you have military background, yes?
I was in the Army for 21 years. I've been on 5 continents in 2 different wars, and I have 4 combat tours. So I know I look like a hothouse flower, but
right. You're a killing machine. Better watch out.
Well, I don't know about that. I do have a nut allergy, so I don't swallow.
Well,
and I'm scared of choking on small bones.
Wow. So during your time that you were in the military, you were probably wrestling with this during that whole time, or was
people ask me all the time, they're like, Megan, when did you know? The answer is, I don't fucking know when I knew. Lots of people that transition have this sort of big, sort of lightning bolt moment when they're like, I was 5 and I knew I was supposed to be a girl. I did not. And when I was in the military, I was very good at being in the military. Now, did this creep in? Later in my military career, it creeped in, and it's kind of hard to understand having 2 people in your head, trying to figure out. And at the time I was living in Florida, and it's like I was wearing short shorts and flip-flops. I couldn't have my nails painted because I'm in the Army and things like that, and my hair was very short. So it was pretty tough to tell, but it got a little worse when I moved to Colorado, and I say worse, it got better for me, but it just started to sort of develop more. And like I said, about 5 years ago, I had a really good friend who's a bartender, and she looked at me one day and she goes, because I had told her I really wanted to wear leggings and boots and a big sweater, and that was the style at the time, and I really wanted to wear that, and she was like, Megan, quit worrying so much about what other people think, because they're not paying any attention to you. And, in my head, I was like, oh yeah, nobody's paying me any attention. And after she told me that, I really lost a bit of that anxiety, because these have all been little walls that I've chipped away from myself, because I don't have someone that's trans that I can go, I want to be like her. I'm just figuring this out as I go. So the first time I wore a skirt, I was sitting outside of a bar and I swore a giant searchlight was going to come out of the ceiling, and everyone in the bar would be standing around when I walked through the door, like a reception line waiting to see me. And nobody paid me any attention. So it's one of those things, it's kind of like stage fright. It's like the first time I got on stage to do comedy. I know I'm not gonna die. Nobody's throwing a beer bottle at my skull. But you still have that sort of fear of the unknown. And so until you take that step, it's impossible to know how it's gonna work out.
Right. I think it's important for a lot of people to understand that the coming out process isn't necessarily it happens in a particular order or in a particular stage in life. It's different for everyone.
Right.
Right?
The way you choose to come out, whether you're gay, bi, lesbian, trans, whatever, it's all very personal to you. As I tell people, because I've talked to more than one person that's like, Megan, I really want to, and these are, I guess, straight guys. I don't know whether they're straight or not. My questioning someone's sexuality is not really what I do because I don't really care.
Right.
But they're like, Megan, I want to start wearing dresses. I'm like, okay, well, wear something feminine until it's uncomfortable to you. And next time, try and do that a little more. That's what I did. It may be you trying drag. There's all kinds of different ways that this manifests in people. And I would never want to say, here's the end-all, be-all checklist of how you have to do this. One of the really, really great things about me transitioning is my parents and my two brothers are incredibly supportive.
That's important.
Although the way I told my brothers was really funny because I called them both up separately and I was like, hi, how are you doing? Well, I didn't know if you ever wanted a sister, but you have one now.
That's awesome.
What? No, the dog's fine. No, she left. You still have a sister? Yes. Yeah. Talk to you at Christmas. Bye. And it was pretty much that blunt. I'm a huge, somehow in the last 5 years, I became a huge sort of icon in the Valley's Pride community. I don't go to protests, I don't go to marches. It's just, for 4 years I was this boy in a dress that was completely unapologetic about wearing a dress.
Yeah.
And people would ask me, and for a long time it was just John. And then it was Aunt John, and there are lots of people that know me as Aunt John.
At what point did you take on the moniker Aunt John?
That was about 3 years ago, so it was not very far into my comic, me becoming a comedian.
Yeah.
And lots of this stuff all happens very organically for me. I was sitting with a group of my friends one summer out, and we were having cocktails, and we were having this really funny conversation about someone's made-up children needing to go to soccer practice, and one of them being too inebriated to do it. And I was like, it's just fine. Your Aunt John will be there to take care of those babies. And somebody was like, Aunt John, that's an amazing name.
It is. It really is.
So that's where it came from. And then I needed to be able to explain why it was Aunt John on stage.
Yeah.
And so the story behind that is, because everybody needs an aunt when they're out sometime and somebody's bothering them. And it's like, what's wrong, baby? Is somebody bothering you? Why don't you run out to the shed and get an otter pop? I'm going to finish toweling off because I was just finishing my third set of bench pressing a Prius. This is going to hurt you a lot.
That's funny, and a little bit of kind of behind the scenes story is I remember whenever we were first doing comedy, there was a time that your comedy you didn't ever mention the dress. You never mentioned that, and I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember after one of your sets, you and I have been kind of together in this since the beginning. We used to, after our sets, we kind of go to each other and say, how'd I do? What was that like? And so we kind of give each other a little bit of feedback. And I remember one time I was like, man, how come you never mention the dress, dude? You gotta mention the dress. And you're like, and I remember the very next week you came back and boom, you've been on that.
I do remember that conversation, and you and I really have, over the last 3 years, have pushed each other to be comics, have pushed each other to perform, and have tried to get, we're like, oh, that set's awesome. And your comment to me was, why aren't you talking about the elephant in the room? And I was like, why am I not talking about that? And there are some really, really funny jokes about me being in a dress. And it's not mean or hurtful. It's just really funny things that I run into being in a dress.
Yeah.
From boys and girls. You guys can't see the dress I'm wearing, but it has a petticoat under it, so it's big and fluffy. And there's some secrets to wearing a dress like this and going to the bathroom. The first one is have a penis. So I think about things like that. I had a really good friend who is in a band, and he's a musician, and he was like, Megan, you're hilarious. Like, you're ridiculous. It's so hard to drink around you because unless you're taking a drink, you're saying something funny and I'm spitting liquor out. And I was like, what? He goes, he called it a tight five. And I was like, that's gross. And I said, I think I am tight. I'm not 5, but we can use a lemon if you want.
Right.
But what he was talking about was having a tight 5 minutes.
Right.
That what I needed to do was get 5 minutes of comedy. And then the same place I met you, which was Open Jelly, I would come down and sometimes I was it. I was the only comic on stage. Sometimes Benny was here, sometimes there were other comics. But I got on stage and for me it really is like heroin. It's like, I need to do that again.
Right.
And before the pandemic, I was on stage 4 to 5 nights a week.
Yeah, you were getting it.
I was out really grinding, doing comedy. I had a really, really strong 20-minute set that I could bulk up. I could make larger or smaller. I opened up comedy at a couple of places because they had an open mic, but they were used to just background music. Mm-hmm. And I show up and I'm wearing a schoolgirl outfit.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, I want to do comedy. And they're like, okay. And I would get on stage and I would do my set. And, people didn't pay attention. And I came back the next week and I do the same set, and I come back and I'm just doing that set over and over again. And finally, people, after about the third time, people are like, hey, shut up, Megan's on stage.
Right.
She's really funny. And they started stopping and the bar would get really quiet. And my friends that were the bartenders were like, Megan, it's so funny when you're here and you do stand-up because the bar just gets sort of dead quiet.
And that's a good way to get experiences. Like if you can do rock a crowd, if you can do comedy in front of a crowd that's not a comedy crowd,
right.
A bar crowd, if you can get their attention, that's a good thing. And I find that a little bit bizarre because it's like, you know, there's you on stage is a sight to see. And it's just like, yo, how can you not pay attention? You know what I mean? I don't get it.
Well, it is me.
Right.
So, you know, and since I started transitioning, I have talked more. Not that I don't talk a lot as it is, and I usually have very funny things or funny stories to tell people, but I talk more about me transitioning, and I find it, one, for me, it's very helpful because it's me talking about me transitioning, and it makes me more comfortable in my skin. But it's also talking to everyone else because I may be the only trans woman they know. And if that's the case, everybody must think all trans women are amazing.
You're lucky though, because the community that we have, the scene, the artist scene that we have here in the Valley it's awesome. So whenever you were first starting, and I kind of probably already know the answer to this, but I don't know if people at home know, like the reception that you got and the support or the naysayers, or did you get,
on stage like? Or just showing up?
Showing up.
You know, when I first started sort of dipping my toe into going out as a girl, I figured out that if I knew the bartender, I'd have somebody to talk to.
Okay.
I was very timid and pretty quiet, and I would have a couple of drinks, and if you would sit down and talk to me, you would get all this amazing, I would tell you all these amazing stories. And as I started to meet people, I changed bars, I started to meet people that were artists and thought alike as me. I mean, they weren't wearing dresses, but they didn't care. I used to tell people, after you meet me, it takes about 10 minutes to stop staring at my chest. Because my eyes are up here.
Right. Speaking like a woman.
You know, and people really would forget that I was wearing a dress or a skirt.
Right.
I was talking to these really funny kind of hardcore blue collar guys. They were tile setters. And they worked for Payless Shoes, and they had come through and done some repairs, and they were headed someplace else. I was wearing a schoolgirl skirt one night, the night I met them, and at the end of the night, we walked outside, and one of them looked at me and was like, "Can I ask, is that Irish or Scottish?" And I did a little curtsy, pulled it out and did a little curtsy and said, "It's schoolgirl." And his buddy just starts dying laughing.
Is that where you got that joke?
Yes. And
That's awesome.
Then a guy looked at me and goes, the same guy goes, "Can I ask why you're wearing a dress?" And I'm like, "Well, it's a skirt and a top, but you're a boy, what do you know?" I go, "Can I ask why you're not?" And his buddy looked at me and goes, or at him and goes, you should just stop fucking with her. She's way better at this than you are. So I think it forced me to be a lot funnier and a lot quicker
Wittier,
on my feet.
Yeah.
When I first started transitioning, because it makes it, one, if I'm way quicker than you, I make you kind of look stupid. I'm not trying to make you look stupid. I'm trying to get you just to leave me alone.
Right. It really does disarm.
It's very disarming.
Yeah.
It can be very distracting. And in the long run, well, at this point in my transition, people are really like, why would you pick on Megan? Megan's amazing.
Right.
And I have all of these male friends that are like, you just let me know if somebody ever messes with you, Megan, I got you. I'm like, I've seen you bench press. I think I got it for myself.
Hey, when we're out, and I'm glad you're with me, man, because I know if anything goes down, Megan's got my back, man. You better watch out. You ever been body slammed by a woman?
Lots of my guy friends do not like to arm wrestle me.
Oh, hell no.
And it's very funny because we'll play pool and I'm like, yeah, if you win, you got to arm wrestle me. And they're like, what? So I win a lot. And then I have to change the rules.
Oh.
Yeah, if I win, you have to arm wrestle.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
So, and people get really excited about watching me arm wrestle. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'll say things like, you gonna let somebody in a dress whoop you on the arm wrestling?
I don't know, man. That's a humbling experience, I would have to say.
It's pretty funny, but
It is.
and it's all in good fun. It's
Right.
never like being mean.
So being here at Charlie Dwellington's, where it's kind of like the mecca for diversity within the scene, I think. But
It is,
Liz is a huge proponent
for
the art community and for the
the LGBTQ plus
LGBTQ plus community.
minus multiplication, fraction, square root. No, wait a minute, that's something else. And that's not.
But she's a huge supporter.
Well, when you look at Grand Junction from the outside,
Yeah.
people think this is a very kind of conservative, dare I say, redneck, cowboy farming town.
Right.
And what it is an amazing town with people that want to live here.
Yeah.
And I have gotten so much amazing support, and from what would be termed the cisgender, so the genetic male and female community, that it's like, why wouldn't this work?
Right.
Charlie Dwellington's is an amazing bar. It's probably the closest thing to a gay bar, but it's not a gay bar.
Right.
It's just a bar that wants everybody to come in and feel welcome and comfortable, and they're serious about it, because the first time I was able to get back on stage was at one of the drag shows here, and I've been doing stand-up for the drag shows for about 2 years now. And the drag queens are amazing, and it was another really awesome outlet for me to get on stage, and I'm in a dress, so I blend right in.
Right.
And someone heard someone call me Aunt John. And Liz is got kind of defensive about it. She's very protective.
Is this after you changed to Megan?
Yes,
Just have
she's.
people call you Megan?
So the show that we're doing with the new comedy syndicate on the 27th is going.
Ready and rolling.
So we have a new comedy syndicate, and there's a show on the 27th at Two Rivers Tavern, which used to be Barron's on Colorado, and that will officially be the first time I'll be on stage as Aunt Megan, because slowly transitioning, just like everything I do, is to make sure everyone around me is comfortable.
Yeah.
Because in the long run, I understand that I'm transitioning, not the world.
Right.
And the way I'm transitioning is to make sure other people are comfortable around me. And that still gives me some anxiety because I don't want anybody to feel like I'm pushing my transition down their throat. I'm not going to stop transitioning.
Yeah, I don't think you do that at all. I think the real thing is that people need to be comfortable around themselves, and that's the beautiful thing about your story and your experience and with this is that we're all going through some sorts of transition. And I'm talking about, especially in the artist community, where it might be your first time on stage, it might be your first performance, it might be the first time that you're in your band and you don't know if you're going to remember your lyrics and you don't want to feel like a stupid idiot if you screw up, and you don't want to screw things up, and you want everybody to have a good experience. But really, is if you do you and do it with all you got, people have no choice but to look at that and be like, yo, mad props for that, man. Amen to that. For them just giving it 100%, you know what I mean?
I get so many people coming up to me when I'm out, looking at me and going, Megan, whenever I'm having a bad day, it's so amazing just to get to see you because you're always so positive and so excited about everything that you just kind of fill up a room with positive energy, and it's so nice to feel that way and to be just around you. It's hard to stay in a bad mood.
Have you had any negative experiences? Anybody trying to pick on you? Have you beat anybody up?
No. Although I did have someone threaten to kick my ass. And
where was that at?
It was out at another bar, and so I stood up and I took the coat I was wearing off, and I think he realized that I was 6 feet tall, and I was like, you realize I was in the Army for 21 years. I have 4 combat tours, and if you really like hitting girls, I guess you found one.
Wow.
And before it got much further than that, his wife was like, you were not doing this, and kind of drug him away.
Wow.
And all of his friends were super apologetic.
Was he like sloppy drunk or just
no,
a hater?
He was just a dick.
Wow.
And I don't run into it very often, and it kind of reminds me of what other trans gals are going through, girls and boys.
Right.
Because this isn't the safest thing to do in the world. But I have amazing friends, and they are all like, are you kidding me? Why are you bothering Megan? I know tons of bartenders in town, and they're like, we're not bothering Megan, because I'm not bothering anyone else.
Right.
You don't like what I'm doing? Just leave me alone.
Right.
I don't want to come hang out with you. I'm not trying, if you're like, you don't have to sit near me, But I'm very funny, and like I said, I try to be super disarming because I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable around me. That's hopefully what I get a boyfriend for.
Right. What's that look like for you?
You know, 6'2", long hair. Oh, you mean, how are my dating prospects?
Yeah, so you said you're currently single.
I am.
All right.
One of the things the medication I'm on for my transition does is I have almost zero libido.
Okay.
So it's not like I want to meet a boy to jump in bed with. I think it would be super nice to get to hold a boy's hand or to snuggle with him or kiss him and then push him off the couch and tell him my parents are getting home at midnight and he has to leave. So in my head, I'm like a 16-year-old girl. And so everything's new and shiny for me and interesting, but I don't want to do very much. One, I don't have any interest or drive to.
Right.
I was talking to a friend of mine who's a male, he's a trans male, which is female to male. And I saw him on Monday and he's like, Megan, I am so angry all the time. And I was like, are you real horny too? And he's like, yeah. I was like, welcome to boy puberty.
Wow. So in that, so is that because of the
he takes testosterone.
Okay. So okay.
And so he has all this free testosterone roaming around in him. And he's like, what can I do? I was like, I would go lift weights. And he goes, I work out. And I was like, no, not work out like a girl. You need to go bench press a bunch of stuff. You know, move a lot of weight, it will make your muscles, like your muscles will absorb a bunch of that. Or there's another muscle that will absorb a lot of that. That's what boys in puberty do a lot.
Right.
So you can go and masturbate a lot. I don't know if the way you'll masturbate will help any, but that's in theory it does. So it was a really funny conversation.
Right.
And I get all of these very funny interactions, and I'm a full-time college student, so I'm on CMU, I'm a veteran, and so I'm very visible in public because this is what I wore today. And I get asked all the time if I'd be somebody's mentor, things like that. I was asked, there were some guys that came out as gay and they'd asked me if I'd be their mentor, and I was like, okay, I don't know shit about being gay, but I'll do it. And people are like, so you're not gay? I'm like, no, I don't like girls at all. They're like, no. I was like, well, I like boys because in my head it goes, girls like boys. That's why I like boys. I was gay for about, I don't know, about 8, 9 seconds. I was like, let's see if I can be a boy kissing another boy. And I was like, no, something's still not right. Oh, I know. It's because I don't want to be a fucking boy.
Right.
And so it wouldn't have made any difference.
That's interesting. And I think that's I think your story is, anybody who's watching this is going through whatever they're going through. I think that your story is like a huge, just like encouragement, a vote of encouragement to be like, there's so many, it's so dynamic. It's not one way, it's not this way or that way. But one thing that is common is just like the struggle, the decision, the bravery, and like the push to be like, I'm gonna be who I feel like I am and be who I am, how I feel inside.
Right.
Regardless of what I am on the outside.
The breakthrough for me really was, I started on my meds. Like I said, it's about to be 8 months that I've been on meds. And in the first month, I was like, I'm so excited, I'm a trans girl, yay! And the second month, I had an 8 o'clock class, and I was like, oh crap, my hair's getting longer. I have to get up and do something about my hair. I need to put some makeup on. I have to shower. I have to get dressed. Dresses. Of course I'll wear a dress to school. Why wouldn't I? I'm a girl. And so I just started wearing dresses to school because it was so much more convenient to put my underwear on. This was when it was warm out, so underwear, some tennis shoes, and a dress, and then do something about my face and hair. And that was a huge confidence boost for me. And that was around the time in my head I was like, I'm not a trans girl, I'm just a girl.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I understand that I am very much, and will always be, a female, you know, a trans female, whether I have SRS surgery, and SRS stands for sexual reassignment surgery, which involves top and bottom surgery.
Is that something that you may do in the future?
You know, 4 months ago, if you'd asked me, I would have said, I think I'm okay staying with the factory stick shift.
Right.
And now I think I want an automatic.
Well, you're starting to think like a woman, right? With the way you're transitioning with the
Right.
with the hormones.
The way my brain works now, and the term is genital dysphoria, and I'm starting to be less interested about what I have below my waist.
So genital dysphoria, that means that you're...
I don't like what I have below my waist. I don't like my boy parts.
Okay.
I like boy parts, just not mine.
Right.
Although I have a nut allergy, so I don't swallow.
Is it scary to think about the idea of a genital reassignment?
No. The way I think about my transitioning, and what I say to people is, I'm incredibly excited for all of this.
Yeah.
Changing your gender is not like saying, oh, let me kiss a boy and see if I like kissing boys, or let me kiss a girl and see if I like kissing girls. I don't know what you do with a sheep, and I don't think you're supposed to, so
Right.
I can't help you with that. But
Makes sense. Yeah.
me transitioning is not something you stick. It's, you know, you have to jump in the deep end.
Right.
You can't dip your toe in this. Now, saying that, if for some reason I had this giant epiphany tomorrow that, wait a minute, I'm really supposed to be a boy, I could stop all the meds and I would go back to being a boy. I'm not ever doing that, but I could.
Right. At this point.
Yeah, so you need to be really excited about what you're doing, or you really should not be doing this.
Well, it sounds to me like you are you're in that place that you are a female. You're a woman. You are a woman. You know what I mean? So it's like it totally makes sense. Now, for someone who's on the fence, they might not have that. They might not have that conviction. You know what I mean?
Right.
They not be all in, and they're not. They're the ones that are like, you know, maybe I shouldn't. I may.
Right. They're not all in,
Right.
and so jumping on meds may or may not work well for them.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I had 4 years of being a boy in a dress,
Mm-hmm.
and this community accepted me as a boy in a dress and really liked me. I've spent 3 years on stage making people laugh, talking about me on stage, you know, and my humor changes as I change. But it's all based around me and my experiences wearing a dress.
Well, I salute you sharing your story, and I think that a lot of people will gain from hearing your story. And I think that whether you realize it or not, you're mentoring a lot of people through this video.
Well, that's what I was starting to allude to, that I may be the only trans person you might ever meet. And if I'm not a good steward of me and all the rest of the trans people in the world, then you're going to go away thinking trans people are mean. And I'm not.
Right.
I don't want to be bothered, but I'm not mean. I'm not going to pull your wings off, that kind of stuff. Because when I really, 5 years ago, when I decided that this is what I was doing, this was going to be my life, I had a very personal conversation with myself, and I was like, if you're going to be a girl, then you have to stop being a boy.
Wow,
so
that's beautiful. Yeah.
No more like snide side comments, no lying, no stealing, because I've had bartenders, even here, hand me back more change than I gave them money. And I'm just not going to be mean or steal or any of that stuff.
You're talking about a higher level of integrity?
Yes, and I'm going to be very positive and incredibly sweet and incredibly nice. And what happened was, if I was here as a boy, I'm someplace up here as a girl. I am so much more, and it sounds a little conceited, and it's not meant to, but I am so much more popular as a girl than I ever was as a boy. But I'm also so much nicer and so much more fun to be around.
An all-around better person.
I'm a better person, which makes people gravitate towards me because I am very happy and very positive.
Well, I think that's true. I think that speaks to you being congruent with yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm also a huge advocate for myself. One of the biggest thing I'm fighting for right now for the trans community is people don't realize that accidentally misgendering me can get me killed. It's not, I'll get beat up, because trans women don't get beat up, they get killed. And there's places in Grand Junction that have asked if I will come in and lecture about what it's like to be trans, because if you're a guy, or a female, you can stand up and show some slides and go, here are the statistics and this is what you can do. When I walk in and say, hey, when you call me by my boy's name, because my name hasn't been legally changed yet, because the courts are kind of closed, when you do that and there's other people around, I don't know who they are, and they may have had a problem with someone who's trans in the past. And they might want to come down, follow me down the hallway and try and turn my head into jello. And I don't know about you, but I have a pretty cute head.
Man, you gotta keep that pretty head where it's at, man.
And I want to keep it the way it is.
Right.
And when I explain it like that, you can see the wheels in people's head start turning. And it happens more than you would think. And I just had to put my foot down one day and go, this is enough. I'm going to say something every single time. Because if I don't, it's deemed acceptable and it can get me killed. I get you didn't mean to do it intentionally, but is your intention to come and pat my casket and tell me how you won't do it again, that didn't work out very well for me.
Wow, that's heavy. That's heavy.
It's very heavy, but it's very true.
Yeah.
There was a trans woman this week killed in the U.S. There's an epidemic of trans people being killed because people either won't or don't want to deal with it. And that's why I say I'm transitioning, not the world. And I'm not trying to force anyone, to do anything they don't want to with me. If you don't want to be my friend, that's fine. But just leave me alone.
Right. Wow, that's heavy, man. That's really heavy. And I think it's good for people to understand how important it is not make that error that would be like
and you think that, and I explained it to someone the other day. I was like, if I was black and it was a racial slur, how much different would it be? You might just get irritated with the racial slur, but if you accidentally misgender me, if you call me sir, somebody could go, wait a minute, that's a dude in a dress. And now I have to deal with him and his other, the rest of the guys that share the set of teeth.
Closed-minded, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I'm really happy that you said that and that you
and it's hard for me,
out.
And so people are always very like, oh my God, I didn't realize that was, and I'm like, it's very important for you to understand. I'm not just being obstinate and say, call me Megan, or it's ma'am.
Right.
I'm trying to stay safe. I'm trying to stay alive.
Right.
And this is one of the best ways that I personally can help the trans community by saying, look, you don't need to have gender in it at all to hand me back change. You can go, here's your change. Well, I was raised, well, if you don't know, don't say anything.
Right.
Because if it gets me killed, I don't care. Is that polite? I'm pretty sure getting me killed is not polite.
That's not polite.
And, when I go and talk about this, there are some really kind of heavy, dark things that I talk about like that.
Are you going to be doing some speaking?
I'm going to be doing some public speaking.
Where are you going to be doing this at?
I don't know the dates yet, but it's going to be internal at the VA.
Okay.
It's going to be sensitivity training for them.
Wow.
So that they can understand. Because there are trans veterans that will not use our VA hospital here in Grand Junction. Okay, we don't have much power left, but coming up for me soon, every second Saturday at Charlie Dwellington's, you can see me in the drag show. I'll be there doing stand-up comedy. I don't do drag. I like dragons, but I don't do drag. And then monthly at Two Rivers Tavern, the Comedy Syndicate is starting a monthly comedy event there, so you'll be able to see me there. A little further out, hopefully I end up with a box that boys come in. But, that's kind of what's close. The next 2 years I'll be graduating from college and teaching high school. I'm going to be a high school history teacher.
That's awesome.
And so I'm waiting for the day one of my students is like, Miss Megan, tell us about when you were in the war. And I can go, I was balls deep in the shit.
Well, Aunt Megan, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us. And we look forward to all of your future endeavors. We want to see you on stage rocking that comedy mic. Thank you so much for being open and really for being an inspiration to a lot of people out there that need to hear the message that you're giving and encouraging and the strength behind it and all that. I think it's I'm an ally for sure. So I think we need more allies to, you know, to stand up and be like, hey, this is what it is, man. This is 2021. Aunt Megan, thanks so much.
Well, thanks so much, and thanks for all the amazingly kind words. And I was so pleasured to be able to sit down and talk about these things with you.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like the A-team. If you can find me, I'll talk to you.
All right. Signing out. Thanks a lot, Aunt Megan.